Morning, guys. What we're going to talk about today is bedding of a rifle stock. Now, you've heard me discuss in class and lecture how important bedding is to the overall process of rifle building, and it is. The threading and the chambering, are two very important parts, and the bedding is right up there, 1, 2, and 3, of what's going to make this rifle shoot consistently. Okay. And what we're trying to achieve when we bed a rifle, bed the stock, is we're trying to achieve consistency. We're trying to get the perfect fit of this metal work to that stock. And the better that fit is, the better the rifle's going to shoot. Okay? So, my belief when we're doing these types of things as far as bedding the rifle is that I like personally on a hunting rifle to have about a 20 thousandths float. And on a target rifle, I like this one, I like to have about a 60 thousandths float, okay? Now you can go anywhere between a 30 and a 60, but I figure a 60 thousandths float is gonna enable there to be no vibrations whatsoever between that barrel and that stock, all right? Some guys vary on that, some guys go 40, some guys go 30. To me, 60 is where I like to do most of the rifles. And most of the time, that's what's requested by me by the other guys I build the rifles for the PRS series stuff. F-class might even be even more than that, okay, F-class rifles. So, as a custom rifle builder, something you need to think about always is the steps that you're going to go through as far as what you need to do to, build a rifle. And a lot of guys, a lot of the glamour and stuff is on the machining and the lathe work and whatnot, and the chambering and everything. Yeah, that's all good, you've got to be good at that, but the bedding is critical. Okay, and there's steps that you have to go through, when you're bedding the rifle. One of the most important things that you're going to do when you bed your rifle is to eliminate your vibrations. Eliminate any part of this vibrating in the stock, because that vibration transfers over to the barrel as the bullet is traveling down the barrel. Okay, so bullets traveling down the barrel, and if there's an inconsistency here, say with your action screws or somewhere back here with your action screws, or maybe your bolt is rubbing against the stock somewhere or something like that, it's going to cause a vibration. It's going to cause an inconsistency. All right, and it might be something where you're shooting your group and you have, say, 3 into a pretty good hole, say 3/8, quarter of an inch type hole, and then for some reason the fourth one's always off. Well, it could be something to do with the vibrations or how your rifle is bedded, okay? So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over all that. I'm going to show you what I do and the steps that I do for bedding a rifle, and also what I do to the action screws and whatnot, how I open those up, and I'll explain that whole process, and we'll get into bedding of this stock today. Okay, guys. So what I've got in front of me here is the stuff that I use to bed a rifle stock, all right? So as I've progressed as a rifle builder, I've modified a little bit what I was taught in school, but not much, okay? I basically modified more of the components that I use rather than the method that I was taught, all right? So first thing that you're gonna need is some type of bedding epoxy. So I have two here. ProBed 2000 is what I use probably 80% of the time. There are some advantages to ProBed over MarineTex, and the main advantage that I find when using ProBed is I like how this mixes. This is a 1-to-1 mixture, whereas MarineTex is a 5-to-1 mixture. Okay, so how this comes? It comes in 2 tubes that look like paint caulking tubes. And you can buy their gun that they have or get it at the hardware store where you can put the 2 tubes in and you can mix an equal portion and be able to get the 1-to-1 exact. Okay, so to me that's a pretty big advantage, and it's an advantage in that I'm able to produce a more consistent product. Okay, so the other big advantage I find with ProBed is that it shrinks less. Shrinkage as a builder is something that you have to learn to deal with, and whenever you're picking your bedding compounds, but it shrinks less. Where this shrinks about 3%, this shrinks probably about way less than that, maybe 1% at the most. So it doesn't shrink quite as much. It's easy to mix. The disadvantages is that it's kind of hard to get. All right, I take that back. It's not hard to get. It just takes a while to get. Okay. So if I do not have any pro bed on hand and I have to do a bedding job that I've got to get done, I can run to the hardware store and pick up MarineTex. Okay, cost is about the same for both products, but that's a big advantage, is to be able just to go down to the hardware store and pick something up. Okay, so MarineTex is a good product. It's what I'm going to bed this rifle with as well. It's what I was taught to use when bedding a rifle. The advantages are that it cleans up really easy after the bedding is done. You got to clean up the rifle stock. It sands really easy. You can go to the hardware store, pick it up. The disadvantages, like we talked about, to me the biggest one is that it shrinks so much. It shrinks about 3%. Now, that's not an issue if you know how to bed with MarineTex. Okay, if you know how to clean up when their bedding compound is still wet, if you know how to do that, you can deal with the shrinkage. Okay, but if you don't, then it could be an issue, and I kind of learned that the hard way. So I can't tell the difference between either one as far as accuracy goes. Okay, any rifle I've used, whether I use this or this, but if I did what I was taught, if I bed the way I was taught, I have no issues with accuracy. This kind of comes down to just personal preference. Some guys swear by this stuff, some guys swear by this. So to me, it's like I really like this, and I kind of like this too. Okay, so it really depends on what I have on hand. All right, so you got to get some type of epoxy compound. I never use Acraglass ever, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Get some gloves. Okay, so get some. This is really messy, and you got to have some gloves. Okay, this gets everywhere, and if you get it in your hands, you got to use some chemical to take it off, and I don't like doing that. I don't like using chemicals on my skin. So you guys shouldn't either. So go ahead and get some gloves. You're going to need a paint stick to mix it with. You're going to need some modeling clay. Okay, we're going to use a modeling clay to stick any place where we do not want the epoxy to go. So get some modeling clay. And you're going to need some type of release agent. Okay, so the release agent that I got two of them here. I've got Johnson's Paste Wax, and I have Hornady One Shot. Now, I was taught to use Johnson's Paste Wax, and as I have evolved as a builder, I always now tend to use Hornady One Shot. Okay, now once again, to me, it doesn't matter what you use. This is what I use. Okay, I don't use paste wax so much because you can apply it on to your barreled action, and you got to be really diligent in how you buff it out. If you don't buff it out correctly, when you take your barreled action out of the bedding, it leaves imperfections in the bedding, and they're kind of annoying. And as a custom builder, those imperfections are something that we're trying to eliminate. Okay, so you can use it. It's some guys have used it and they just learn how to buff it out. Even when I have been very diligent in buffing out the Johnson's Paste Wax, I still sometimes will see the wax residue left in the bedding. So I don't really use it that much anymore. I kind of but it's something that's available. You can run down to the hardware store and pick up. And the advantages of this over the Hornady One Shot is that this can will probably last you your entire life. Okay, this is there's a lot of wax here, so that's a pretty big advantage. It'll last a long time. Hornady One Shot, it's easy to apply. The cleanup is when I take the barreled action out of the stock. I don't have any residue, anything like that. My bedding jobs look fantastic. So Hornady One Shot, it's a case lube is what this is, but it's pretty decent. Some people use PAM, some people use vegetable oil. I like to use this because I can take this off and up one side down the other and I'm done. Okay, I don't got to worry about. I don't have any of the issues of having to buff out stuff like I do with the wax. So whatever you decide to use is fine, but this is what I use, Hornady One Shot. So obviously you're going to need your tape to put on your barreled action to establish your float. You're going to need some blue painter's tape or some type of masking tape to put on the stock to help with cleanup. And you're going to need odorless mineral spirits and cotton balls, okay? You're going to use the cotton balls to dip in the mineral spirits to help clean up the stock after you're done. You can use Q-tips, and there's guys who do that, but to me it takes forever. It's a giant mess, and one of the things with a cotton ball that's helpful, is, especially when using MarineTex, is when you clean up, it helps establish a nice little bedding compound that's easy to clean off. And I'll get into all that in the when we get into the actual bedding part, okay? So these are all the things that you're gonna need, and we're gonna get going and start bedding this rifle. All right. All right, guys, so real quick here, it's kind of a redundant thing that you've heard about running a dollar bill down the length of the barrel when you're free float it. It's something I like to do. Makes me feel pretty good that I've done the process correctly. So I take the tape off and I take my, it could be a piece of paper or anything like that. I just happen to have this here. I just run this down right here, right? And I just write down, okay? Obviously, I've got no contact whatsoever with this paper bill or with this dollar bill right here, right? So that's what we're looking to do, okay? Let's get this back in here. Okay, now that's just a precaution that I do. It doesn't need to be done, but it's something that I do, okay? So we're getting pretty close to getting ready to bed this. Okay, guys. So I have prepped my barreled action here to bed. I've got my clay in. I have my tape, my 60 mil float on the barrel. The tape establishes our float. I have my little step cut in, which this is going to be all supported with bedding compound right here. And the barrel is actually going to float from this point forward. Okay. So with a barrel that's this heavy, this is a number 7 contour, with a barrel that's this heavy, I tend to do that. I tend to put a little step right there to help support the barrel right there, right? And I think, you know, whether or not it's accurate or not, I don't know, but that's what I do. I put a step right there to help support the barrel. On a hunting rifle, I will just run this tape from here all the way back to the lug, okay? On a number, say number 4 contour or smaller, I just run the tape all the way back to the lug. So quickly here on the clay, as you can see, I got my clay in every little spot right there that the epoxy could get into, okay? So when we go back and when I cut this out after I do my bedding cleanup and stuff, you'll see why this is important. Got to think of the clay as any place that you do not want the epoxy to glow, okay? Remember that. Any place that you do not want the epoxy to go, you put clay, okay? Most important is right there, your front action screw, okay? If you do not get clay in that and you bed it, you will get epoxy up in your front action screw and it'll get into the chamber, and it is a mess when that happens, okay? I've never done it, but I have seen quite a few students that have, and just forgetting to do that, and it's a mess. So any place that you do not want the epoxy to go, you put modeling clay, okay? This here is my stock pin. I'll do a video on how to make one of those, okay? So we come up over here, and here's my stock that's ready to go. All right, so I got my tape on the sides, my barrel channel is open. Recoil lug area, you can tell, is totally open, ready for some bedding compound. Channel up through here, I got clay right here in the bolt cut out, and clay right here. This is Remington 700, that's where the safety is. So any area up and through here I'm not too concerned about, okay, getting clay in or getting epoxy in, right? Because I can come back and open all this up. This right here and this right up through here is what's really holding the rifle together, okay? So you can cut all this stuff out here. You can come back after to clean up and cut all that out. And we'll go over that after I bed it and get into some accuracy things like opening these holes up and stuff, these action screws, okay? So what we talked about with what you're gonna need, where I said this stuff right here, okay, now how I don't really use that when I bed, well, I do kind of use it a little bit. I use it in areas like right in here, like right inside my mag well, okay? I'll take that clay and I will rub on the inside of the mag well before I bed, okay? And you guys that are doing your Boyds like I am right here, all of you have this channel that's cut out, okay? So what I do with Boyds is I take that clay, or that wax right there, Johnson's Paste Wax, and I put all the way on the inside through here, okay? All the way up and through here. I do not get it up on the rails, okay? Just inside here, all right? So then any wax or any epoxy compound that gets into that that channel right here, any epoxy compound that gets into this, if I wax that really good, it'll come out, okay? Now we're gonna come out here with a ball end mill when we clean this up, and we're gonna take a lot of this stuff out right here, okay? And a little bit up and through here too, all right? It's gonna lighten it up and it just helps clean it up, okay? So you can see I got tape right here on the stock as well. I'm doing that because this is a wood stock, okay, and it helps to clean up. If this was a composite stock, I wouldn't do that, okay? I would just set it up in there and I wouldn't do that, okay? But since it's a wood stock, I put tape up there, and you guys, it makes it a little bit cleaner to do. I know you guys will see that. So let's take this here, and we'll get right up in here. Oops. On there. Okay. All right. So I am ready to go. I'm ready to bed. All right. So this is part one of the video. Okay. This is how we get to this point right here. Okay. We are ready to bed. So I'm going to put this in here. This is all prep work, getting ready to bed. Part one. Part two is going to be the actual bedding process, and part three is going to be the cleanup and how to get this double check for accuracy when we're done. Okay? All right, guys.